My name is Patricia Torres, and this is my story. I am the voice of many immigrants out there that are struggling to survive in this country. When Donald Trump was elected president, I remember the day my kids came home terrified because students were harassing them, saying, "Your mother is going to be deported." I tried not to cry in front of my children and to assure them that I will be safe. They were so worried because they had already experienced a past emotional trauma. And I told them, "We trust in God, don't we? So don't be scared." They were constantly worrying that their mama would be snatched away, spending so much of their young lives filled with fear and anxiety. I was born the 13th child to two Mexican parents. Before I turned one, my mother fled Mexico to the United States, starting off in California, where my older siblings lived. She came to the U.S. to leave poverty and my abusive father. Life was a different kind of hard in California. My family all worked in agriculture. I remember there was a series of immigration raids across the city, and sometimes they were deported, my older siblings. My entire family was devastated and unstable until the Immigration Reform and Control Act signed into law by President Ronald Reagan on November 6th of 1986, when around 3 million immigrants were legalized, including my older siblings. This was such a relief for the entire family. I like this quote from Ronald Reagan. "The problem of illegal immigration should not, therefore, be seen as a problem between the United States and its neighbors. Our objective is only to establish a reasonable, fair, orderly, and secure system of immigration into this country, and not to discriminate in any way against particular nations or people." My mother and I came to Texas when I was 14 years old. I remember my first days in middle school were so hard. This was the first time I really encountered prejudice and racism. One day during lunch, I was sitting down with a group of girls that I wanted to establish a relationship with, when suddenly I was harassed by one American girl who presumed I was illegal Mexican. With deep roots in the United States, it felt a little like betrayal. I became ashamed of my Mexican heritage, fearful that I would not be accepted by others. And I often told people I was born in California. I've been here since I was 10 months old, and my first steps were in American soil. This is the country I call home. Grown and raising my own family, I lived in constant fear of being torn apart from my children's father, who was undocumented. On July 8th, 2013, our luggage was packed. We were leaving for a 2-day trip starting at a water park that morning. I went outside to water my plants when I saw my children's dad driving up the driveway. I also noticed a car pulling up right behind him, and my worst fear came true. It was ICE. They got out of their car before my husband could even park. ICE surrounded his car, pointing guns at him and shouting to get out with hands up. That's when I had my first ever panic attack. My heart began beating so hard and so fast I thought it was a nightmare. My 4 kids came out from the house and I watched ICE agents take their father into custody and detention. I was horrified and felt hopeless and uncertain. I wanted to comfort my children, but I also wanted to run to their father, like somehow if I could get to him, we could go back to before this terrifying moment and everything would be fine. But he was taken from us and we were left brokenhearted with a van full of luggage for a trip we couldn't take. They deported my husband to Mexico and I was left with a full house to support and a welding business to run. Sometimes I felt like giving up because it was just too much to handle. But I found strength in the Lord to continue and never give up. Any real relationship with my children's father ended because I had to make a really hard decision. The hardest decision. My kids' future had to be priority, and they would have a better and safer life here. To live in a foreign country could greatly reduce their educational opportunities, increase the risk to their lives due to the problems many are facing in Mexico. Human trafficking, organized crime, fighting drug-related violence, and unlawful killings of civilians. Nothing is more heartbreaking than to live with the crippling fear of losing a parent to deportation and having your family ripped apart. My children lived through this once. They knew extreme hardship because of it. And it's why the words of classmates were not just words, but felt like real, terrifying threats. The night of 2016 presidential election, we were all so anxious to know the outcome. It was getting very late, so I told my children, go to sleep, even though I could sense fear all over them. The next morning, my children's first question was, who is our new president? It's almost always, Mom, what's for breakfast? I remember how scared they were to go to school that day. Students at my son's school began to talk about how Trump was going to get rid of all the Mexicans. My son told me that most of the Hispanic students stayed quiet. People began to frequently say racist comments in schools and other public places, usually going unchallenged. 2 white men approached me in the street during One Day Without Immigrants protest, pressing me with questions asking, why don't Mexicans work hard in their own country? Why don't they just wait in line to come here legally, like everyone else? Why support foreigners when millions of Americans are unable to find work? If entering the U.S. legally was a possibility, we would have done so without hesitation. No one chooses to spend years hiding in the shadows, living each day, never knowing what terror tomorrow holds, unless that's the only choice left. Despite common misconceptions, entering the country legally is next to impossible. We have limited options to a pathway to citizenship for undocumented workers. I myself have been waiting in line for over 24 years for my immigration interview. It's easy to judge people in a situation that you have never faced, and easy to form an opinion on an issue when it does not directly affect you or your family. Imagine if I was judged on the strength I found to run a business, raise my kids, and make a life. In the Old Testament of Christian Bible, we can find numerous scriptures where God was very specific to Israelites on how to treat foreigners. In Deuteronomy 10, verse 18 and 19, it reads, He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in Egypt. Love, not harass or terrorize. Know, even tolerate. The Bible tells Christians that the Lord is loving and compassionate toward all He has made, and we are to be like the Lord. We must reflect God's love and will. I pray for a change for the lives of millions working to build a life in the land we call home. Over time, I stopped living in fear and let myself feel more and more pride for my Mexican heritage. I taught my children to be proud of their history. They are proud of their Mexican heritage. Shouldn't we all be proud of our heritage? And shouldn't we all have a chance to pursue the American dream?